Hello YouTubers. I've touched on this subject in the past, but like my previous video, I felt it was a good topic to revisit. I realize that most Christians, and even most secularists, believe that democracy is a good thing, but this wasn't always the case. In fact, the early Christians hated democracy. Rather than say, they were wrong and we were right, I think it's far better to try and understand why they hated democracy. Those who advocate for democracy generally make one critical assumption, that people are inherently good. I'm not sure that's a good assumption to make. It's certainly not the Christian view. The Christian view is that people are, by their nature, in a fallen state. That, by and large, humanity is an evil, sinful species. And what happens when a bunch of evil people vote? Well, as the expression goes, democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. This is a common criticism of democracy. There are more people that vote for bad than vote for good. It's a criticism that atheists, pagans, and many others have made. For the early Christians, however, the issue was a bit deeper than that. It wasn't so much that they recognized that democracy isn't perfect, because no human system of government is perfect. Rather, it's that they would have viewed democracy as the most evil and inhumane system of government imaginable. Most importantly, they would have viewed the rise of democracy in our modern age as the kingdom of the Antichrist coming into power. Hopefully this video explains why. Let's start with a familiar eschatological passage from the Bible. In the book of Daniel, Daniel is said to have interpreted a dream by King Nebuchadnezzar. In this dream, Nebuchadnezzar saw a head of gold, a chest of silver, thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and toes made of iron and clay. Daniel made clear that this dream was about different kingdoms that will arise, that Nebuchadnezzar is the head of gold, representing the Babylonians, followed by the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans, which represent the legs of iron. But there is a kingdom after the legs of iron, represented by the toes of iron mixed with clay. These toes are kingdoms that exist shortly before the return of Christ, and Christ will destroy them. We know this from reading the passage. It states in verse 34 and 44, "As you looked, the stone was cut out by no human hand, and it struck the image on its feet of iron and clay, and broke them into pieces." And then, in verse 44 it says, "In those days of those kings the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms, and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever." So let's be clear. The toes are referring to the kingdom of the Antichrist, as most Christians already know. But what kind of kingdom is it? To the early Christians, toes of the image represent the rise of democracy. To support this claim, I will cite the earliest Christian commentary on the book of Daniel, written by Hippolytus. He states, "In which season the Babylonians then reigned, as being the golden head of the image. Then after them the Persians ruled for 245 years, as they are shown to be silver. After them the Greeks ruled, beginning from Alexander of Macedon, for 300 years, as they are the bronze. After them the Romans, who are the iron legs of the image, being as strong as iron. Next the toes of the feet, so that in each place democracies are shown, which are destined to be, and which are divided into the 10 toes of the image, in which the iron will have been mixed with clay. After these things, what does Daniel say? A stone was cut without hands and struck the image. For in all events, after the iron was mixed with clay and spread to the tips of the toes, and while they were discordant with one another of the seed of men, what is left which is necessary to await but Christ, who comes from the heavens as a stone which is cut from a mountain, so that he removes the kingdoms of this world, but also sets up the heavenly kingdom of the saints, which will never be destroyed. And the same mountain also became the city of the saints, which fills all the earth." So why did the early Christians hate democracy? Because they viewed democracy as an evil system where people fight among one another, leading to the eventual rise of the Antichrist. They saw a future rise of democracy and believed that Christ would return to put an end to this democracy. That's all the time I have for today. If you like this video, please show your support by subscribing.